Welcome to the IoT Podcast, brought to you by MarketScale. I'm your host, Sam Kingma. Since the early 1900s, the assembly line has been a vital aspect of manufacturing cars and many other products. In 2018, there's been a massive evolution from the simple one-way conveyor belt system used to manufacture the Model T to a more versatile, complex system created on a product-by-product basis. Joining us is Kevin Howe, Product and Installation Manager at IntelliFinishing, to discuss the conveyor systems he's worked on and how the concept of the assembly line has evolved over time. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on tonight. So I wanted to start this interview off by specifically asking, what exactly do you do at IntelliFinishing?
So I am a project manager. I take the project at the point when we receive the purchase order from the customer. And so then I take it clear through the design phase and all the way through the installation till completion. So I oversee not only the internal design work that we do, which is the electrical portion, and the programming of the motors and the conveyance, but also oversee the subcontractors and then follow it to the field and take care of the field installation as well.
And what kind of products are you guys making?
We're doing industrial paint systems. So we provide conveyors, ovens, washers, paint booths for a variety of different manufacturing processes. And we do wet paint as well as powder coat paint. So a lot of different also wash type processes. So we're quite custom and flexible in that regard.
Now, why are these conveyor systems important to these bigger businesses?
Well, some of the parts are unwieldy, where you're just too large to push around on carts, things like that, and to be very efficient at it. The advantage of our system is we're not a typical chain conveyor on the overhead side. So we have some flexibility. We have a lot of different motors. We can change speeds. We can close up gaps. We can hold parts in certain process areas if that's required. We do everything based on recipes. So one carrier can have a whole bunch of large parts on it, and the next carrier can have quite a variety of smaller parts, and we can vary times in ovens and process speeds and also pressures, those kinds of things as required for, whatever the recipe is calling out for. So it makes good sense, especially for customers that don't paint widgets. If you're painting the same part over and over and over, then a monorail is probably a better choice. But our customers typically have maybe a little bit slower throughput, but a wide variety of parts, and we work really well in that environment.
So more versatility is the benefit to using a conveyor belt system like yours instead of the standard Henry Ford assembly line?
Yeah, exactly. And then we also offer some enhanced programming, so some part traceability. You can use all those database records going back if you end up having a failure at some point in time, and kind of go back and look at some of the information and for the process stuff, and say, hey, was I having issues with the washer that day, or why are we getting paint failures, those kinds of things. So also helps the customers track, we can tie into their ERP systems, their ordering systems, and helps them fulfill their database, know their work in progress, all those things. Some pretty good visibility there on our side.
And what are the drawbacks to not having an effective conveyor system, or any conveyor system at all, actually?
Well, a drawback to let's start with a monorail, for example. Okay, so a monorail is typically one motor, one continuous chain. So anytime you have to stop that process along the way, whether it be you're having an issue with load or something like that, or unloading, you stop it everywhere. In our system, it wouldn't work like that. If you were hung up at load for a little bit longer, the rest of the system would continue to run. And then you can actually close that gap, to a point till you get to a process area that's going to run slow. So another advantage would be a monorail. So if you ran out of parts and chain's still running, and we call that hanging air, basically you're running a hole in the conveyor system, you can't catch up. You can never close that hole. So you've lost that product window of production time. And there again, with our system, with being able to run multiple speeds and those kinds of things, we can catch up those holes and actually close them over time.
Do you find your product to be a really easy sell for most companies, or do you find it to be a challenge to actually market this?
I'm not super involved in the sales side, but it is a bit of a challenge for us because we're not the cheapest alternative out there. That's the biggest hurdle to get over. I think the customers that have really delved into it and saw some of the advantages that we can offer, and then ultimately choose us as a solution are very happy that they did. Like I said, there's a lot of good alternatives out there, obviously, but we certainly offer a little more for the money. I think I think the extra costs are worth it when you see the end results.
So that's more about the challenges of actually selling this kind of conveyor product. What are the challenges of actually creating these kinds of products?
Sometimes it's really more layout dependent. The customer maybe only has a certain amount of footprint to put things into, so that can be challenging. You're not always going into a brand new building. Lots of times we're doing it in a rework scenario. So then, you have to work around current production. The same challenges any contractor would have, basically. Making sure that the work the customer says they're going to perform is done on time and on schedule, and then that doesn't impact the schedule that we do, and that's another advantage that we bring with kind of the one-stop shopping and doing the overall project management as well. We can help coordinate those efforts, directly with the customer and kind of drive our own bus there, so to speak.
And is it hard because you offer something that is so unique on a business by business basis? Is that really hard to sort of provide to the exact customer's needs?
No, I don't think that part's hard. Like I said, I think sometimes the justification for them to spend the extra money is what's hard. Sometimes we're the only option that works, in a specific footprint. I can think of one customer we did. It was a Caterpillar project by using some unique alternatives with our conveyor system, using a side-to-side shuttle instead of a big bulb turn. We actually were able to decrease the footprint size of their overall building by one column bay, which is pretty significant cost in overall building. So, you couldn't have done that with a traditional chain conveyor trying to paint the size of parts that they were wanting to paint.
Now, how have your conveyor belt systems changed over time?
Well, ours is kind of an evolution. We call it a chainless power and free. So power and free is it's more flexible than a monorail, but ours has changed really where we can adapt to the new technologies and stuff. So we use a lot of variable frequency drives on our motors. All of our motors have that, actually. So every motor is variable speed. And as the technologies have evolved in those kind of realms where the drives are physically getting smaller, getting less expensive, more reliable, Ethernet connectivity, we're running all of our communications via Ethernet on those. We're able to adapt and take advantage of all those things. So, we're always trying to refine our designs, to get the cost down, but really it's more about overall reliability and uptime than trying to get the cheapest thing going out there. So in the end, that's what's going to matter, to the end customer.
You mentioned taking advantage of new technologies. Are there any new technologies on the horizon that you're really excited about to implement into your product?
I'm not aware of any right now, but just the general evolution of the PLCs, which are the industrial programmable logic controllers that we use. There's also always innovations in some of the what we call industrial automations, another software package that we use to drive our graphics and do our databasing and some of the interfacing between some of the process equipment and the conveyor as well. So, those technologies are always growing, but, some of the graphics and stuff, we've kind of pretty well standardized on some things that we like. We're always looking to change and improve a little bit. But, you also kind of want things to look similar job to job for familiarity with everyone else. So
more effective software, more effective pieces of hardware coming out that you can implement.
Yeah, it's really something that the customer wouldn't see so much. It's more in the hardware improvements and things like that. There may be, like you said, some of the software stuff in the back, but it wouldn't be the things that they would delve into themselves necessarily day to day. But it's all the stuff that runs in the background, to keep the processes running, or data logging, or fault logging, any of those kinds of things. Kind of the unwritten side of it, or like I said, more of the unseen.
Now I got one more question for you. What's the future? What does the future hold in store for your conveyor belt system specifically?
Well, I think for us, the sky's the limit. Honestly, we've been branching out into other companies. Our name's been out there now for 7 or 8 years. We have quite a few lines installed that have been up and running for a long time. And, I think the more of that you have, the more time that you have on those things, certainly makes a difference. If people are kind of on the fence about, if they really don't know if they want to do that or not. But we have, lots of satisfied customers out there, we can use as references, take them on tours, those things. So I'm real excited about getting into some other avenues, other types of businesses. It's just sometimes just a matter of time till the right person sees us now.
Thank you for coming on, Kevin, and thank you everyone for listening to today's podcast. If you'd like to find out more or to listen to previous episodes, you can head to marketscale.com/industries and subscribe for previous podcast, articles, and video content from your favorite industries. I'm your host, Sam Kingma, and you have a fantastic rest of your day.